jump in our time machine. It's our countdown to Kansas City as we revisit the 2018 NWSL Final. It took place between North Carolina Courage and the Portland Thorns. It happened at Providence Park in Portland, Oregon, Saturday, September 22nd, 2018, 4:30 p.m. Eastern kick. And the attendance, man, oh man, over 21,000 fans in attendance. 21,144 showed up at Providence Park. It does help because their home team, Portland Thorns, was in the final. It's no spoiler because it happened years ago. The North Carolina Courage defeated the Portland Thorns 3-0 to lift their first ever NWSL trophy, their first ever championship that North Carolina had won. Let's rewind how these teams got there into the playoffs. North Carolina finished the season in first place. They won the Shield, 17 wins, 6 draws, and just 1 loss. And they finished 2018 on 57 points. And that was the second straight season for North Carolina to win the Shield. 57 points, though, behind them in second place, but 15 points later was Portland Thorns, 12 wins, 6 draws, and 6 losses on 42 points. For North Carolina, it was forward Lynn Williams, who was second in the league in goals, but first on the team with 14. Jess McDonald, another forward on North Carolina Courage, 8 assists, and she was first in the league. For Portland Thorns, it was midfielder Lindsay Horan, who stole the show for the team. 13 goals that year, best for third in the league, and she was end up named the league MVP that season. Midfielder Tobin Heath also on that side, 7 assists, second in the league. So to have these two meet in a final was going to be the best of the best, number 1 against number 2. And Sandra, we talked about it last week. Once we got to just a few years prior to this, you were at these finals. You were at every single one. So did you find your way to Providence Park in 2018?
Yes, I did. And honestly, I'm so glad that I did, because this probably at the time marked itself as maybe the more memorable of championship finals for me, after at this point already having gone to 2 in 2016 and in 2017. So there was a lot of buildup leading to this point. I think as we go back in time and recall some of these finals, we're starting to see some of that very organic rivalry develop between these two particular locker rooms. So we're talking about a semifinal meeting between this roster of players as the Western New York Flash against the Thorn in 2016, to meeting in the championship final as NC Courage and Portland Thorns just in the fall in the previous year in 2017. And now once again in 2018, they go head to head in a final. And this time it's at Providence Park. So there was, I remember, Lisa, just a lot of, hype billing around the top 2 teams going head to head, that it was going to be North Carolina Courage's final to lose because of the incredible run that they went on during 2018. But all these other circumstances that kind of came into place, the sort of challenges in front of them. I do remember the semifinal in 2018 getting relocated to Portland because of the effect of hurricane season that year. And due to safety for fans and players and traveling, they said, let's move that 2018 semifinal to Portland. And that way, whomever the winner is out of that semifinal between Chicago and North Carolina, they will have already be in Portland to sort of eliminate any extra travel. So they tried to make it as neutral as possible. But I think if you're North Carolina at this point, you're going to a rival city, you're playing in front of rival fans. There wasn't that much element of the whole pre-selected neutral site kind of advantage for them going into this one. So I think it played out perfectly in North Carolina's favor.
And even for North Carolina, they're supposed to host a semifinal, and they don't even get to do that. Now you're on the road for an extended period of time, and despite winning the league by a landslide, you don't get to host any playoff games, which bit of a setback. Hey, it didn't matter. Uphill battle for the Courage, and they still find a way to get it done. In the semis, it was North Carolina taking on the Chicago Red Stars. North Carolina goal in the opening 5 minutes by Jess McDonald. And then Sam Ewis found the second goal in the 86th minute. North Carolina defeat the Red Stars 2-0 in the semis. Meanwhile, Portland Thorns took on Seattle Reign in the other semifinal. Seattle gets on the board first, just before the 30-minute mark. Jasmine Spencer for Seattle scores. Now Portland is coming from behind. It's just before halftime, 43rd minute. Tobin Heath for the Portland Thorns finds the equalizer, and then Lindsey Horan, the league MVP that year, in the 77th minute gets the game winner. Portland advanced to the final 2-1 over Seattle. It's Portland, North Carolina. Sandra, why don't you take us through North Carolina and how they rolled out their lineup for this 2018 NWSL Final?
For sure. Let's go through this very stacked roster. They had Caitlin Rowland holding things down as goalkeeper, Jaylene Hinkle, Abby Urseg, Abby Dahlkemper, and Merritt Mathias to close out that back line. Dabinia, Denise O'Sullivan, Sam Mewis, Crystal Dunn as that box midfield. And then we saw Jess McDonald as a bit of a floater alongside Lynn Williams as well to kind of get things cranked in the attack.
And have continued for this long. Okay, so that's North Carolina. Let's look at Portland and what was wrong for the NWSL.
Yeah. Hey, Lise, I think you're coming in a little frozen, so I'm going to take over so that folks can make sure that they hear the starting 11 for Portland Thorns. They had Adriana Franch in goal, Megan Klingenberg to begin the back line, Emily Menges, Emily Sonnet, Ellie Carpenter, Lindsey Horan, Celeste Bure, Tobin Heath, Christine Sinclair, Anna Cerna-Gorshevich, Caitlin Ford, to round out this starting 11. Folks, just to let you know, when I saw this starting 11 drop for both of these teams, when I was at the final in 2018, I said, this is going to be absolutely bonkers. It's going to be fireworks all the way through. Another little bit of intel as we welcome Lisa back into the show is that I went to this final in a media capacity. So there were events leading up to this moment. And I remember in the media day, Lisa, that the energies between these two teams were very different. It was in Portland, so they had it at the Nike campus out there in Beaver, Oregon. And North Carolina was very much about the business of getting to this final and getting things done. There was a lot of respect for the moment, a lot of respect for their opponent. And then Portland, they were feeling fun. They were feeling loose. They looked like the team that they didn't really have anything to lose. Like I mentioned that this was going to be North Carolina's final to lose. There was a moment in that media availability where they broke out from the media mix zone and ended up hopping over to a basketball court within the Nike campus. And we're just like shooting pop shot and stuff like that.
That's so
the
cool.
The energies were very different. So when I saw these two starting lineups the next day, I was like, we're going to get some fireworks, man, because the energies between these two teams are like on complete opposite ends here.
That is so fascinating to think about, right? Like one team being at home, essentially, and one team being on the road. North Carolina, though, from the very first whistle, Sandra, they looked like they were going to win this game. It was dominating fashion, on a mission. That's such a great way to put it. It started fast and physical for North Carolina. They had a game plan going into it. I mean, not only was this roster stacked, but they have been doing it all year, moving quickly in transition, having a high press to win the ball back early. And the talent of the players on the group worked so well together. 13 minutes in, Brazilian international, the superstar Dabinia finds the opening goal for North Carolina Courage. And then before halftime, Jess McDonald gets another one and doubles the lead for North Carolina. Heading into halftime, Portland is down 2-0 at this point. You think, okay, maybe some changes are going to come. There's going to be a little bit more to come in the second half. But the more that came, Sandra, was just more of the North Carolina train. Absolutely dominating, running all over. I mean, they looked like they had already won the game by the start of the second half specifically, and Portland looked like they had forgotten to show up a little bit. Ultimately, Jess McDonald gets her second goal, a brace in this final in the 64th minute, and the final goes 3-0 to North Carolina. When you think about the play during this match, what stands out to you when you remember it?
just, I hate to keep reusing and rehashing this word, but just complete utter dominance. Not so much for North Carolina, for the players getting out there and executing their tactics. Like at this point in this franchise's history, they play a specific way. Like we know Sam Ewis and Denise O'Sullivan are going to be there in the midfield, making sure that things are getting handled and taken care of, creating, disrupting. We know that Jess McDonald and Lynn Williams are this tag team unit, but then they added in this extra layer of Crystal Dunn to the mix. Her first year arrival to the Courage. It wasn't so much them exerting their dominance. For me, it was also in the way in which they were doing it, was taking Portland Thorns completely out of their element as well. Everything about this final, the fact that they were playing it in Portland, that they were going to be in front of Portland fans, the home field advantage, it felt like there should have been a better performance by the Thorns, and they just absolutely struggled to ever insert themselves or get a hold of the game. There maybe was a small stretch of time coming out of halftime where you try to play with a sense of urgency. But by the time this third goal comes in the hour mark, you can feel that there's absolutely no coming back in this game.
23 shots during this match for North Carolina, 14 to the Portland Thorns. Throughout this season for the Thorns, they had consistently found the back of the net. They had scored in 34 consecutive games, including the semifinal against Seattle in that 2-1 win. And North Carolina shuts them out. They snap that streak. And it was the first time in September 22nd of 2018 that Portland Thorns had been held scoreless at Providence Park since May of 2016. 2.5 years. 2.5 years. Portland had been able to score, find the back of the net, specifically at Providence Park. North Carolina was built different in 2018. Yep. Absolutely. They win their first NWSL championship in 2018. The sellout crowd of over 21,000 was the most attended of a women's pro soccer championship match in U.S. history. Now we think back, now we know in 2023, it had become 25,000, over 25,000. But this final, Jess McDonald with her brace, she was named MVP of this final match. And then the awards for the postseason come out after this final. Goalkeeper of the year goes to Portland's AD Fran. She had 45 saves and 3 shutouts that year. Defender of the year for North Carolina, Abby Erceg. She was the fewest goals allowed that year. It was held by North Carolina, and a lot of it having to do with Abby Erceg. And the MVP of the league, Lindsey Horan, Portland Thorns midfielder, 13 goals, 2 assists, 18,000 minutes. Congrats, North Carolina. You did it. You won your first one. Guess what, guys? They do it again. They're also the first team to win the Shield and the championship in the same year. You might hear this again soon next week, but this was fun. Recapping the 2018 NWSL Championship.